Fox News Podcasts presents the Bret Baier Podcast with Fox News Chief Political Anchor Bret Baier.
Thanks for being here. It's an exciting time. All of you are delegates, and obviously this is a completely different convention because it's a completely different ticket. You know, let me start with you, Liz. You're here in Illinois. How do you feel about it now that it has kind of completely changed in 30 days?
Honestly, on fire. Not only is Illinois the host for the convention, but the change up on the ticket has really energized people throughout the entire state. I'm representing a Springfield, Illinois district, and I can tell you the energy is palpable. Everywhere we're going on the street, Governor Pritzker here in our state did a lot to get the convention here. And so the Illinois delegation is really on fire. It was a late night last night, but people are still very excited to be here.
Yeah. Josh, you're from the Ohio State. I made sure to put the D in there. Decided to get involved in this? I mean, something you're passionate about?
Yeah, absolutely. This is, if you can't tell by the baby face, my first convention, but it truly has been so exciting. So I do a lot of work at the local level, trying to make sure we elect Democrats up and down the ballot. But I'm also really involved in student government at Ohio State and a Mount Scholars program, which makes sure we do a lot of community service. So just anything I can do to give back to the community and stand up for students.
And what's the thing that drives you? Like, what's the issue that really gets you fired up?
Yeah, so I'm a public policy student at Ohio State. My minor is education policy. So making sure that we have a strong public education system where we're paying our teachers well, making sure we're focusing on teaching kids how to read rather than banning books, and just making sure that there's a culture where good mental health is promoted.
Shantell, you're from Arizona.
Yes.
And what brought you here? Why'd you get to be a delegate?
A first-time delegate, very excited. What brought me here is just wanting to have an interest, have a voice. Found out that there was an opportunity to actually run to be a delegate. Got involved in that process, and as I got involved to help others learn about it, I decided why not run? And so enjoyed that process, learned a lot more about policy, the role of a delegate, and I'm happy to say that I was elected, and I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah. What's the issue that drives you, that you think motivates you most?
It depends on what hat I'm wearing. As a parent of 3, it is always mental health, education, knowing that our future is with our young people and seeing the struggles of mental health, knowing that in Arizona we are lower on the list than most states in the quality of education across the board. And so with that, wanting to be a part of the solution, being at the table, having a voice, taking what I hear and learn and then translating that for others who want to take a part but don't know where to start.
I mean, of this table, you're the swingiest of swing states, Arizona.
Yes.
Looks like it might be tight again.
Yes, most definitely. Most definitely. I think people are very passionate. I think what I am seeing is that people are working across party lines, which I love because they just want to get the job done. And I think to what was said earlier about the excitement, the change in the ticket, I think awoke more people who weren't really sure about what they wanted to do or if they were going to do anything at all. So just really enjoying seeing people work together in a nonpartisan way.
Liz, what drives you? What's the issue that really drives you?
Reproductive rights. I mean, I am a female. I'm so glad I live here in Illinois where we have the blue wall. Our governor, our legislature has done everything to make sure that women have a right to choose in this state. There's a lot of people in other states that don't have that freedom right now, and it's very, very important to me and top of mind that we have a state that secures a woman's right to choose.
Do you think that moves the needle in other states that might be more independent, moderate?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the vice president being the candidate is energizing women, is energizing young people, and I think it is a wake-up call that we have to vote in November. So I think you're going to see major turnout this year.
You know, Josh, young people, is there a change in wanting to get out? Sometimes young people say they want to get involved, but then it doesn't materialize at the polls.
I think that's a great question, Bret. With young voters and President Biden, we still saw a lot of excitement about his policies, right? So we were seeing student debt cancellation. We were seeing help on the environment and a strong economy. But I think having the face of Kamala Harris, a servant leader, someone who is energized, who can lean into her quirks and say, you know what, I'm a human and we're going to treat all humans with empathy, that's exciting. That's exactly the type of leader that I think my generation wants to see and what we want to become one day ourselves.
Now, do you guys have friends who are Trump people?
My neighbor,
everybody does?
Yeah, my neighbor in Springfield, after the president was shot, they made a personalized sign that said, "Keep fighting President Trump," right across the street. I did call and tell them that maybe their yard was vandalized. I didn't know what happened, but we have a friendly relationship.
You're joking.
Just joking.
Yes.
But supporting a lot of we support a lot of local folks together. But yes, I think there are all kinds of people, especially in other parts. I'm in the most red district in the state of Illinois that, and I'm friends with people that are Trump people. But at the end of the day, when we talk turkey, my core people that I rely on the most are people that really do have the same core beliefs that I do.
I've talked to some families, Shantell, that just broken up because they just can't talk to each other because the politics.
Yes.
And, I do this thing called Common Ground where I try to bring Republicans and Democrats together to talk about what they're working on. But sometimes, it's just two different views. How do you look at it? You've got friends who are voting the other way.
I really ask people to think about what's logical. And so what we try not to do is identify which party, right, which team, Raiders versus Cardinals or what have you, but say what's important to you. And so when people say things like, well, if I vote for Vice President Harris, then my gun rights are going to be taken away. So for me, let's talk about the facts, not so much about the person. And so I find that when we do that and say, where did you get the information from? Why do you feel that way? Then we're able to come to a common ground. And sometimes you just got to walk away. Yeah. I've unfortunately ended friendships, family ships. We agreed to disagree because there are things like reproductive rights where until you have those conversations, you don't really realize how people view things. And it saddens me. I will admit some of those conversations, but with that, I just have to continue to work within my values and surround myself with people that share those same things.
Yeah. Conventions, Josh, are a lot about firing up the base, but you talk to people around the country, and a lot of people said they'd love to take the temperature down just a couple notches. How do you view it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the convention is such an exciting time to get unified and be energetic around a candidate, but I think in general that it's a really important thing, making sure that we aren't losing friends and family over political disagreements, and we can honestly just come together, because at the end of the day, we care about so many of the same issues. We have a different view of how we should approach it, but at the end of the day, we share common values as Americans, and regardless of if it's Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, we need to make sure that we defend this democracy and keep it moving forward so that we can trust all of our votes will count and that we can keep moving together forward as a country.
Do you guys want to hear more details of policy? You kind of happy what's happening right now as far as the campaign from the Harris-Walz campaign?
I feel really good. I'm excited to hear what happens the rest of the week here, but really looking forward to a debate. And so going back to your question earlier, I would never want to lose anyone based on a political view, a friendship relationship. And I think those debates are something that are really important on a national stage. And then you're able to come back to your neighborhoods, to your friends, for me, fellow moms and people in the community, and have the conversation, but you still walk away. We're Americans first. And I think that that's something that's really important for us to remember. And it does help tone it down. Look, we're all moms trying to get our kids to school on time. And that's something that's important and something that I've really learned through the years from when I was a young political staffer, a young college Democrat myself, to today. It's important to me. Those relationships are more important to me than how we're voting. It's really important to keep that kind of local, family, communal relationship.
We'll hear more after this.
You said debates are important here. We've got September 10th coming up. That's a big deal. When you guys saw the debate on June 27th, Shantell, what were you thinking when, in those first minutes, would you watch it?
I watched it, but I honestly had to turn it off because I was surrounded by family and friends, and we ended up having our own internal debate. I think I hear the word debate and I automatically go to a disagreement of why I'm right versus why you are right. And at this point in time, I think it's important for us to decide and understand what is being said, make sure that we're at that even playing line, and then have a discussion. Because again, I think to what was said, we all are Americans, we all are human beings, and we really at the end of the day just want to live in our own space, be our authentic selves, and be happy. And so with that common goal, a conversation, I think is important. So I do think a debate will be important for everyone to understand truly what the policies will be in a lower level, so that everyone can understand it. I think many times when people hear politics, if they don't understand the lingo, then they step away from it. And many times people don't trust quote-unquote politicians, but when you help people to understand, it's just someone that is advocating for you. A politician is someone that hopefully you voted, that you elected to represent you, and in order for someone to represent you, they have to know your voice and your opinion.
Yeah.
So it's okay to be uncomfortable to say, I don't know, explain that for me. And so I'm hoping that the debate will do so at a level to people where people feel comfortable that they're getting the facts, and then we can have that educated discussion on a more broad basis.
Josh, we have so many big issues, domestically, foreign. What do you think really is going to drive the day? I know you're passionate about education, but what do you think moves the needle for those swing voters who haven't decided yet?
I think at the end of the day, it's always you vote with your pocketbook, right? So as a pretty much broke college kid who's paying my first rent here on an off-campus house, I'm starting to realize, okay, now I got to start really budgeting for these groceries. I got to budget for rent. But I think the good thing is we can look at the past 4 years and see a lot of growth, especially in Columbus. So the CHIPS and Science Act brought in a lot of new jobs into Columbus in the Intel plant. So seeing that and going, okay, I could either graduate college with a degree, or I could just graduate high school and get a job that pays, I think Biden said last night, an average of $100,000, right? That's huge for people. And we know that we're creating more manufacturing jobs. We know that we're working on bringing inflation down. And I think that we can see that there's been a lot of results in that, especially in this past year. And then we can see that going forward with Kamala Harris.
You have your data. You got it down.
I'm working on it.
Yeah. But what do you say to people who feel differently because of inflation? They say, man, I go to the grocery store, I just feel differently when you talk to them after these last 4 years.
I think you do, but I'm here in Illinois where we've had major job growth. We came out of COVID. We have more jobs than ever, people moving in the state, a lot of companies investing here in our state. So when I talk to folks in Springfield, we're feeling really good. The one thing I hate to circle back, but I want to go back to the debate and say, I can't wait to see the vice president bring the noise on Donald Trump, because I think it's going to be one for the ages, and I personally can't wait to watch that happen.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to watch.
It'll be amazing. I think you're going to look at the past debate, and you're going to see this debate, and people are going to lose their minds. It's going to really fire up the base even bigger.
Yeah. Shantell, back to the inflation question. When you talk to people and they say, hey, listen, I'm hurting. I go to the grocery store, my bill is huge. And they point to the past administration, what do you say?
I say many things. Again, I ask more questions. So people automatically go and blame things. They say COVID, or if it was this person or that person. And so really what I ask people to do is say, what are you doing about it? So we talked about what you're experiencing. What are you doing about it? And they say it's the politics or the politicians and things. I go to the facts. I point to the CHIP Act. I point to various things that have occurred. But again, it's something that we all have to participate in. It's something that requires time. And it also, for me, is something that requires for us to get engaged. Because if there is a movement in the needle and you don't know where you started or where we're going, then you're just really complaining at that point. So I definitely empathize. As a parent of 3, one child went to college and just graduated as a teacher.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And the other is graduating as well. But my oldest, college was never for him. And so with that, manufacturing and those things, I think this is the first time that he actually feels comfortable saying, I don't have a college degree. And not that I ever made him feel bad, but normally, what do you do for a living? Oh, where did you go to college? Those are the questions in America that we typically ask. And now being in a world where it's okay to go have a trade, or you can become something else without those letters behind it, I think we are now at a place in America to where people can be their authentic selves. But again, we all have to participate. Whether you're a college graduate, an artist, or what have you, this is our world, this is our economy, right? This is our government. And so people have to be engaged. They have to participate. They have to vote.
Last thing, it was a kind of a political swan song for President Biden.
Yes.
He's still the president for 5 months,
Yes.
but it's pretty much a swan song for him. Was there a little tinge of sadness in some of that?
Well, I'm an original Biden delegate from 4 years ago, so I served as one of the whips. It was a COVID convention, and so I was with him before
right?
Illinois was split with all kinds of folks, a lot with the vice president. So I'm an original Biden girl. I knew he had what it took to take down Donald Trump. He did it. Last night was really a celebration, I thought, of his career. There were a lot of people on their feet for extended periods of time. And really just to think about the president and everything he's contributed for the past 50 years of his career, it was a really wonderful thing to watch. And it was a little sad, but it's also exciting. He was passing the torch, and that's what needed to be done.
Yeah, passing the torch, Josh.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way. I like history a lot, so I couldn't help but think about George Washington's farewell address.
Yes.
Someone who was willing to be selfless and step away from the most power position in the entire world because he wanted to pass the torch on to the next generation. So I hope that our president, Joe Biden, will be remembered fondly in history. I think the infrastructure bill, the bipartisan gun safety act, a lot of the work that he did was really good for this country, and will be remembered well.
Some people say he kind of got pushed out, but it was his decision at the end. Shantell.
I'm a very sentimental person. And so with that, the way that things went initially, there was some sadness for me and how it came about. But I, again, want to say thank you to our president. The tears were there. It was very humanizing. You think about all of the woes and the stress that sit on the shoulders of those that are ultimately responsible for our country. And then you see the parent and the husband and all of those things. And it made me realize even more all of the sacrifice, work, and energy and the sadness he must have been feeling, but the confidence that he has in Vice President Harris to hand over his baby. He said yesterday that he loved us. And so to hand over something that you love, you would only do that to someone that you trust, that have proven themselves. And so with that, I was very grateful that that time was taken to publicly say that in such a setting, and just very grateful.
Yeah.
But I thought it was beautifully done.
Well, I am very grateful to all of you because I loved our discussion. Thanks a lot. Have a great week. We're going to cover all sides of it, and we'll probably see you down the trail.
Yes, you will.
Thanks
Thank you
a lot.
so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Listen ad-free with a Fox News Podcast Plus subscription on Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Prime members can listen to this show ad-free on the Amazon Music app.